Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank, coming to you virtually from Seattle and the entire beautiful, sunny, and pretty warm today PNW. Look, if you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast for you. We like to say it's a podcast of record. This is where we say street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dan Whedon, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Monica Blackwood. We dressed the same. If you're watching, you can see we both are sporting our Shrimp Tank podcast shirts. Our guest today, who needs to get a shirt, I think, is Rick Morton. Get ready to rev your engines and celebrate success, because we've got a guest in Rick on the podcast who knows how to ride the wave of business triumphs and create a sense of belonging like no other. Rick Morton is the charismatic entrepreneur who went from B2B sales to becoming the proud owner of a Jostens franchise. Since 2001, Rick has been on a mission to help schools forge their unique identity, cultivate traditions, and ignite celebrations that make students shine and teachers thrive. But this spirited soul isn't all work and no play. When he's not busy transforming education, you'll catch Rick grilling up mouthwatering delights for his loved ones or cruising through the breathtaking landscapes of this Pacific Northwest on his trusty Harley. So buckle up and get ready to embark on an exhilarating ride of inspiration, growth, and a whole lot of school spirit with our extraordinary guest, Rick Morton. Rick, welcome. We'll be right with you. Everyone, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. You could say we are ubiquitous. And now we are open for business. Our patron membership, the Shrimp Peelers. It offers exclusive content to grow your business and enrich your life. You'll find access to become a shrimp peeler on our website at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Now, before we bring on Rick to find out about schools and Harleys and all sorts of fun stuff, Monica, welcome back.
Hey, Dan, great to see you. Thanks.
You know, had a big event in our family yesterday, and I know that you've been through these. My oldest granddaughter, Ellie, lost her first tooth. Now, This was a first tooth in the making. I mean, she's been ready to lose it for probably about 3 or 4 weeks. And we were looking, everybody's getting a little bit nervous about, okay, this tooth needs to come out. And it finally did. Big news. And this morning she FaceTimed me, or she got a little assistance FaceTiming me. And she showed me what the tooth fairy left. Now, I remember what the tooth fairy used to give me. I had one of those little golden chests. You remember those chests, like a pirate's chest or whatever, and you can fit one small tooth in it, and inside I think I got a dime. I don't know. I think because the dime I think was even smaller than the penny, it would fit in there.
Right.
The tooth fairy these days is leaving a whole big envelope with her name on it. She got a silver dollar. I did tell her, I think that's President Eisenhower. She didn't care about that, but she has a silver dollar, and then she got some other bills in there. I guess I just went to the dentist. I don't want to lose teeth anymore, but that's big business nowadays.
It is big business, and I think my kids got gypped, because I remember on more than one occasion, I forgot that the tooth fairy was supposed to come visit.
You forgot to text the tooth fairy?
I did, but thankfully, this was mostly my son. Thankfully, his room was messy enough that I was like, oh, I'm sure that she visited and that you just haven't found it yet. And then I went in later. Yeah.
And now you have, just really quickly, you have them old enough that they're actually looking now to go off to school somewhere else, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, both of my kids are doing something new this year for school. My son is going to be a freshman in high school and is moving from the Bremerton School District to North Kitsap High School. So he's going to be starting something new. And then my daughter is off right now as we speak, touring some colleges in in the Boston and New Hampshire and Rhode Island kind of areas.
Yeah. And she's a go-getter. That girl's a go-getter. She's gonna be doing big things. Well, we're talking about schools and losing teeth. Ellie's starting kindergarten. Our guest, Rick Morton, is way into schools. In fact, his business is schools. And I think that a very cool part of it, because Rick is all about celebrations and celebrating kids and celebrating teachers. Rick, welcome to the show. People may have heard the name Jostens before, right? It's wherever they are in the country, probably. Talk a little bit about Jostens. Talk about Jostens. I think you've just changed to South Sound, I think, is if that's right. Anyway, talk a little bit about your business, how you got involved, and what you do.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. So yeah, Jostens, they've been a company since 1897. So they were the ones that started the actual ring tradition. So the West Point Academy, which many people know, they actually began that ring tradition, which they've had for sophomores in their academy for over 100 plus years. So, and it's all about the story. And so I just love a company that stands behind celebrating other people's achievements and success. So it's just an honor to have that affiliation with such an incredible company. But yeah, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I don't think I've ever had a W-2 job. I was in business to business sales, selling furniture in San Diego up until the .com crash. And then I was like, ooh, that hurt. So my wife and I moved up to the great Northwest from San Diego, which is where I was raising my family, and just kind of took some time to figure out what was next. And a gentleman that went to my parents' church was looking at getting out of this business. So I talked with him and did a little research, found out that it was definitely an opportunity for growth. And I also have a desire and a passion for helping the youth in whatever capacity I can. My wife and I have been very involved with church leadership groups or camps. So I've always just had a passion to help kids. So I felt like this was really a good mix of both entrepreneurship and also kind of a bucket for just helping people achieve their dreams. So that's how I got started. I took it over in 2001 and just have been, the beginning was actually pretty rough. I can go into that more later, but that's how I got started. I've been helping kids and parents and schools and teachers and principals just celebrate success for over 20 years now. And it has been an honor.
That's great. So, celebrations and success are what you're all about. I saw on a couple of things that I was reading about you, and about Jostens, that, it's really about those celebrations and the traditions that come about. And one of my questions was, what's one of those traditions that really spoke to you that you've been a part of through your organization in the past? Is there one that really stuck out to you and is memorable?
So that's a great question. And there's literally thousands of them that I see because, I'm working with over 80 schools, and each school is like a separate sort of environment. And I think the one that I'm most proud of, obviously, is the graduation. It's sort of the whole enchilada. It's why every student shows up at that freshman year, because there's 720 days between the start of their freshman year till graduation. And that 720 days can be magical for a student. It could be heartbreaking. It could be exhilarating. It could be challenging. But that day of graduation, which, by the way, I attend most of my graduations, so I have all those songs memorized. But seeing a student walk across the stage and sticking their hand out to shake the hand, grab that diploma, that moment right there, like that magic moment on stage, is what it's all about. You can see Dad, he's in the stands, he's got a camera, he's like, I can't believe my boy made it. Mom's crying, they've got their hand in the air, just celebrating the victory, because every journey to that point in time was different. And there's a lot of celebrations along the way. But that graduation ceremony really is, I think most people, if you ask anybody walking the streets, hey, when did you graduate? Most likely they're going to tell you their high school graduation, not their college graduation, even if they've got their doctorate from Harvard, because everybody remembers. I'm a proud member of the class of 1988, Kearney High School, San Diego, home of the Comets. And it was a big deal. I remember it like it was yesterday. So there's thousands of traditions I get to see, but that's probably the one I get most excited about.
You know, that's really interesting that you say that. I remember my high school graduation, and not more because I remember graduating from college, but it was different. It there was a different vibe to it, and it's funny that you mentioned that, and the importance of that day for students, whether no matter what they go on to do. So when we first met, I knew the name Jostens. We were introduced, and I knew the name Jostens, and I thought of class rings, and I thought of what you really just talked about. You introduced me to the fact, though, that Jostens is also very integral in helping to appreciate teachers with teacher recognition, coming from the administration. That was something new to me. Would you share a little bit about what Jostens and you do for those administrations to say thank you, to recognize teachers?
Absolutely. Well, let me just start by saying my most inspirational teacher was Mrs. Core. Mrs. Core, she was my swim coach. She believed in me. My junior year, I made some really bad decisions. I was on the swim team and I showed up to practice one morning and she says, "Rick, you're off the team. Your grades dropped below a 2.0. And I was devastated. I had to tell 80 of my best friends that I let them down. And I was the distance swimmer, so they were really mad.
Yeah.
And but I'll never forget that moment afterwards. She pulled me aside. She goes, "What's gotten into you? This isn't who you are. This isn't what you're about." And she worked with all of my teachers within the next 6 weeks and held me accountable. And I was able to get my grades up. If it wasn't for Mrs. Core, I would not be who I am today. And I believe in my heart that everybody has a teacher they remember that left a major impact in their life. But as you know, that job is one of those jobs that's not celebrated very often. It's a thankless job. They certainly don't do it for the money. They don't do it for the status. They do it because they love kids. And so Jostens, as an organization, we know that the one group of people in any building that's going to make the biggest impact on that student's success, and that connecting with that person, that student that walks in the campus that says, "I want to be seen, I want to be heard, and I want to be loved." We know that the teachers have the greatest impact on that moment. So who fills the teachers' buckets up? I mean, I know schools do, they try so hard to appreciate their students. They do Teacher Appreciation Week, and I think schools do a different job everywhere I go. Some schools I walk in and I would say I'd want to be a teacher there. Other schools I walk into and I'm not so quick to say that. And so back in 1987, Jostens noticed there was a school up in South Carolina that was doing amazing things to celebrate success. And so we worked with that gentleman who was the principal at the time and said, "We want to replicate what you're doing in your building all over the country. Can you work with us?" And so that began Jostens' sort of Renaissance education arm. And so Jostens has a Renaissance. It's not the Steins and the corsets. It's just their name for their division that helps schools create great environments for kids. And it's through a ton of different frameworks and strategies and resources. But when I walk into a school, the first thing I ask is, what are your greatest pain points? What's keeping you up at night, Mr. Principal? And more than often, it's, I need help encouraging my teachers. So there's a lot there, but that's one of the things I'm most passionate about. And now I have, 1,000 teachers that I would do anything for because I know the hard work they do.
Okay, so I'm going to dig into that a little bit because my day job is in HR, and we're all about, if we're doing our job right, we're all about how do we fill our employees' buckets so that they are doing the best that they can. And I'm curious because I'm always looking for ideas. What's one or two of the most fascinating or really interesting ways that Jostens has come up with or have seen work to fill the buckets of the teachers?
Well, this is ironic. None of the ideas come from Jostens.
Right.
What I love is that we just notice, we pay attention, and we watch. And then what we do is we ask the school, can we have permission to share what you're doing? Because what you're doing is really amazing. So in general, what I find is that recognition has to be specific, has to be timely, and it has to be sincere. And so first of all, you got to decide, what are you going to recognize? So what behaviors is your organization looking at recognizing? So obviously, hopefully they match the values that you hold dear in your organization. And so when you recognize the behaviors you want to see more of, you tend to get more of that behavior, especially if the recognition is very specific. I'll give you an example. Rogers High School does a great job of recognizing teachers through their athletics. And so, it's different when a principal says, hey, Mr. Johnson, great job. I heard that your class is going really well. Okay, that's nice. But it's different when you have a football player that comes up to you on a Wednesday and says, Mr. Johnson, you've really made a difference in my life. And on Friday night at the home game, I would like you to wear my away jersey, because at halftime, we're going to have you stand up and we're going to recognize you as being my most inspirational teacher. Would you wear this and come to the game on Friday night and be recognized? Whew. Right? So when you have recognition that's done in a way that's powerful, that's specific, that's personal, it shifts a whole environment. And imagine 50 of those little moments happening every week in a school. And so what we try to do is find things that are almost zero money. I mean, that didn't cost a penny. Find things that are high impact and then share them with other schools so that they can simply plug and play those ideas in there. But that's just one of many that I've been honored to be able to share with different schools. And of course, Rogers has been doing it because there was another school on the East Coast that started it,
So
I got
Rick, I have to
tons of
tell
things
you
I can share with
that I think I just saw Monica reach for a tissue. I think you I think you got it.
Yeah.
I think you got her there. And by the way, Monica, as we go to break, I thought this was your real job, your day job, and that HR was your side hustle. I
That's
just
right.
wanted to be clear on that.
Yes.
Look, we're gonna take a short break so Monica can wipe her eyes, and we're going to take a short break to hear from today's Spotlight sponsor. When we come back with our guest, Rick Morton, for our hot or not section of the show, we're going to ask Rick what he thinks about franchising. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. Do you know where great people go to meet great companies? I do. It's West Sound Workforce. For 25 years, West Sound Workforce has been putting people to work, matching their skills and interests with positions employers are looking to fill right here in our own communities. Specialized in temp to hire, and direct hire placement services, West Sound Workforce is there to help job seekers looking to find their next position or their next career stop with no cost. Companies partner with West Sound Workforce to augment their recruitment strategies, whether to cover the shift of a vacation employee of their own, having extra hands to make a special project happen, or searching for their next new team member. Visit our website at www.westsoundworkforce.com or check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. I'm Monica Blackwood, co-host today, and our guest is Rick Morton for our next segment, Hot or Not.
So Rick, hot or not, hold on to your seat. Hot or not is where Monica and I are going to pepper you with questions about business, about life, about gifts. I don't know, maybe we'll still get that Harley in there somehow. You're going to tell us whether you think what we just asked you about is hot or not, and then why or why not. I think I'm giving you an easy one right out of the gate. Hot or not, Rick, franchising.
Oh, those are hot. And I think if you're not the most intelligent person in the world, it is so awesome if you can take your energy and your heart and your passion and plug yourself into a proven system. And so you have support, you have the ideas, sometimes you have leads. So I think franchises, obviously you've got to find one that fits your personality, but I think franchises are a great way to go, especially if you're just looking into getting involved in being an independent person. So I love the opportunity for franchises.
So I'm going to build off of that because I saw that franchising was the business model that you have, but it also goes along with the hot or not question, spending most of your career with one organization. What do you think?
Well, I think that depends. I think if that organization is meeting your needs, it's growing with you, it's supporting your mission and keeping you full. I think that's a great thing, because obviously to build legacy, it takes time. The 10,000 hours it takes to master any one thing. There's something to be said about having that sturdy foundational time with one organization. But The minute that that's not working out, then obviously it's your best interest to move on. But I don't think it's a bad thing if those things are helping both organizations and the person grow.
Might be even a little bit of a combo plead the fifth, but I know that you and your lovely wife Kat work together on this. So hot or not, working with family, your spouse, is that hot or not? And
Depends.
remember, this is being recorded.
So I'm going to say warm, because you can have an amazing time, because when I started, my wife is actually still working another job. And because, as you know, if I serve schools, I give myself the summers off. So I'm taking a big break right now. The first year we worked with separate gigs, she saw me play all summer and she was jealous. So of course I said, hey, quit your job and come work with me. We'll have a great time. And ever since then, it has been phenomenal. Obviously, if you're passionate, you love each other. I mean, Kathy and I are high school sweethearts. We met on the swim team. So we live, breathe every moment of our life together, and we absolutely love it. So let me just go ahead and say hot.
I'm going to flip the script on you, Dan. Hot or not, working with a spouse, because Rick isn't the only one that works with a spouse on this show.
Well, not only that, Monica, but as he put, I have a ring too that goes back. We were high school sweethearts as well. So there you go. In order to work with your wife or your spouse, you have to be high school sweethearts. That's the only way it works.
Got it. Okay. Well, then.
Well, not the only way, but it's one.
That knocks me out, but we're close. Like, we just celebrated 24 years earlier.
You were in college, right? Was it college or
Yeah,
right?
I was in college.
There you go. It's all close.
Good. Okay. So that didn't get you out of the hot or not, though, Rick. But I'm going to switch gears on you because this is something that I've been diving into a little bit. And I noticed that Jostens South Sound has a pretty good presence on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm curious, hot or not, Threads, you doing it?
Oh yeah, good question.
Hot. I think you go where your consumers and customers are, and but how it's done will really determine how well you're received by your community. So the one thing I never wanted our social media presence to be was another commercial. Come buy our product. What I wanted it to be was celebrating the successes that we get to see and putting it out there for the world to see. And I know these students, they work so hard and they just love being highlighted for the things they're doing really well in their school. So it's just another platform for us to be able to say, look what's happening. Hey, I don't know if you knew this, because there's some people that have not the greatest perception of their community school. So if you can shine some light on some of the good that's happening, like Puyallup High School puts on a dance every year for their special needs kids, and the whole community comes together and they do makeup and they do dresses. I mean, it is one of the most heartfelt things you'd ever see, but it doesn't get a lot of coverage. So why not put that out there for the world to see? So the next time the school has to pass a bond or a levy, people will think of that instead of all the heartache that comes. So I'm a big believer in social media done right and done authentically, with the voice of the customer being the loudest.
Transitioning out of hot or not just a little bit, you said you're a lifelong entrepreneur, maybe never having a W-2 job other than maybe to yourself, but lifelong entrepreneur. And one of the common threads, I guess I'll throw threads in there, one of the common threads of literally every guest we talk to is that entrepreneurship, contrary to maybe what people believe, it's not easy. It's a hard road, and it's not for everyone. For a number of different reasons, but you talked a little bit about it was a struggle at first when you came up and you took over the franchise. Can you share a little bit about those struggles and how those propelled you to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So what I didn't know about getting into this particular area of Jostens, because I'm in the basically South Puget Sound, all the way out to Aberdeen, down to the capital, and then a little bit south. So when I first took it over, there was about 60 schools in the territory, of which I had agreed upon there was 28 of them doing business with Jostens. So my competitor at the time had a pretty good presence. when I went to go visit those schools the first fall and say, hey, I'm your new guy, I got fired by about 6 or 7 schools. And that was a wake-up call. What I didn't realize is that the previous owner just didn't do a great job of really fulfilling the brand's promise. And it had been going on for many, many years. And schools are very, very particular about making sure their kids are taken care of, their parents are taken care of. So that was a tough blow, because I had paid the fee based on the volume of 28 schools. And now I've got about 22, and there were big schools like Yelm High School and Capital. I mean, there were some big schools. So I really had to dig deep and ask myself, okay, am I in this for the money? Or do I really see myself being a contributor to this community? I have one friend I made at the time at Tumwater High School. His name is Scott Seaman. He's one of my best friends in the world. And for whatever reason, he saw something in me, and he was a dynamic principal. And he was the one that gave me the idea that really launched my growth. And he said, Rick, I know you're trying to sell caps and gowns. I know you're trying to sell class rings. But you know, we have a great opportunity is you can go into a lot of schools and find out what's working. So would you kind of be my assistant and every week go visit 5 schools and ask them these 3 questions? You know, what's keeping you up at night? What's working to help your teachers feel appreciated? And what's helping your student achievement gaps? And so for like a year, I just took, because I didn't have as many schools, so I just took time to find out what schools were doing. And I wasn't the Jostens guy. I was Scott Seaman's assistant. I'm here on behalf of Scott. Now, ironically, that turned into me being the idea guy. And so people were asking, well, you're asking these questions to all these schools. Well, what are they doing? And so it really just was a flip of a script of why I was doing what I was doing in the beginning. And it took about 5 to 7 years to rebuild the positive reputation of Jostens in the minds of educators, because educators remember the bad for a long time. In fact, it took me 11 years to get Yelm High School back. And so it tells you they remember for a long time. But it really just helped build, I think, the success I've had since the beginning was that shift in mindset. So now I'm serving for their reasons, not for mine.
So tell me that, entrepreneurship, it's something that you have to really like be creative with and all of that. What do you do with your windshield time? Because you cover a big, huge area. Being an entrepreneur, tell me how you spend that windshield time.
Yep, it's my university on wheels. So I'm listening to books. I'm listening to great podcasts like this one. I am often, talking with my fellow peers, because there are 7 other franchise owners in our state. And of course, we talk at least once a week, sharing what's working and kind of some of the challenges. Obviously, we can lean on each other to share some of the heartache that comes along with this business. But yeah, that is my precious windshield time. And unless I'm riding with, one of my employees. And then of course, we're just talking about their vision and what their desires are for this business and what their contribution could be. So I love windshield time, because it's sort of my private office to either fill my own heart up with new knowledge or helping one of my people with overcoming a challenge.
One of the challenges in any type of sales, any entrepreneur or a salesperson probably knows this, is you always want to find the decision maker, and for me, in my, it's always been the business owner, basically it's the small business owner. They're the decision maker. However, in different industries, the decision makers could be different people. And I know in talking with you, you mentioned a principal a couple of times. Well, that's not always the key decision maker in a school. How do you go about finding out who the decision makers are? And I know it's tough sometimes you try to get in to see them. How is that process for you?
Well, in the beginning, I don't try to do much digging. I just try to make positive impressions. So what I didn't share with you is that when I was younger, I was a professional clown for 7 years of my life. So I was doing clown jobs from the time I was 13 and then when I turned 15 and a half, I went out on my own. I went to San Diego State Clown College, got certified and everything. And it was good money. I mean, I didn't have any money as a kid. So if I had something, it had to come from me. So what I did was, and I retired Rainey the Clown back in like 1992. So he's been retired for a while. But what I do is I just try to find out what people love and then make their day by bringing that thing. So some people love donuts, some people love cookies, some people love a calendar, some people just love a balloon. So in the beginning, I would just go and I'd say, hey, whose birthday is it in the front office? And I'd make them an animal balloon. And I would just leave and I'd say, have a great day. I wouldn't even say who I was. So because I have the luxury of sort of being around these schools quite often, and I have a dedicated sort of, limited number of schools, I just kept showing up. And eventually they're like, who are you? What do you want? And so, eventually I'd say, well, I happen to serve schools in the area of graduation needs, but I also help schools in the area of building cultures and climates that matter and that are important. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, maybe I could talk to somebody who is sort of one of those thought leaders in your schools. And so, but by that time, I've already won the front office staff. They're like, they love your smile, they love your energy. And so they're very willing to help you because you've just sort of walked in 10 times, just making their day. So I'm a big believer in you don't get the right to ask until you've earned the right to ask. And that's a big part, I think, of my success is investing the time into earning the right to get to that person. And then, of course, once you've earned the right, you can find the answer pretty easily.
So I'm going to throw out a very quick plead the fifth before we go to plead the fifth. Did you say it was Rainy the clown? Rainy?
Yes. My name was Rainy the
Rainy ever want to come out and put on a red nose and go in and visit? Does Rainy ever show up to any of these? Just takes over your body, kind of like the zombie thing, takes over Rick. It's Rainy. Does that ever happen?
The physical form, no, but
No.
I tell you what, the spirit of Rainy lives on every day in my life. Because a lot of times,
I think the red nose might need to show up once or twice. Hey, listen, we're having so much fun. I literally lost track of time. We've got to take a break. We're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Rick Morton, aka Rainy the Clown, for our plead the fifth section of the show, we're going to find out how he would answer the question, what he was most likely to become. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. And Plead the Fifth is brought to you by our corporate sponsors, Ideal Life 360, Cornerstone Financial, First Underwriters Insurance, BC Fitness Studio, Port Ludlow Resort, and Upstart Group. Please visit our website at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle to learn more about these terrific companies. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. I'm co-host Monica Blackwood. Our guest today is Rick Morton. For this segment, Plead the Fifth.
All right, we're turning up the heat, Rick. We're going to play a little game called Plead the Fifth, which means you get to plead the fifth, but only once. And after that, we're going to start asking Rainy questions. Now, see, you've done it. And every time I see, I'm going to be talking about this. You've now did it, as my dad used to say. At the end, you win absolutely nothing, but let's hope you have some fun with it. So the first question is, when we were all seniors in high school, you'd have, and I'm by the way, Rick, I'm celebrating my 40th high school reunion. In fact, the reunion, which of course, because I was a school, the senior class vice president, I'm kind of running it. Funny how that Monica's going, yeah, of course you are. It's coming up in about 3 weeks or so. Y'all had in the yearbook, most likely to something. I'm curious what your classmates would have said. Rick Morton is most likely to do what or become what? And second part, what did you want to become when you were 18 years old, sitting in graduation?
Yeah, I think everybody that knew me in high school knew that I was going to do something around people, and they all knew that I was going to get into business. What I wanted to be was a pilot. So I actually wanted to be an airline pilot, and had no idea that, the universe had a different idea. So
Pilot, that's really interesting. So my Plead the Fifth question has nothing to do with pilots or flying planes or anything, but it does have to do with leadership. And I heard from you on a couple of different occasions about leadership and challenges and leaning into those challenges. And my question is whether or not you want to plead the fifth on telling me a challenge where the outcome was different than you expected, and what was the expectation and what did you learn out of that?
yeah, so as you can imagine, as I'm courting schools, I always call it dating, getting to know them. Eventually, I'm going to ask for their hand in marriage. And sometimes it's very formal. And sometimes it's very casual. In the beginning, when I was still rebuilding the reputation of Jostens, I went out to a school, Montesano High School. I'll just say it. And I had thought I had made all the right connections, had answered every pain point they had. I thought I had this account in the bag. And I showed up with too much confidence, and the principal simply said no. And I asked later, 10 years later, what was it? And it was just that he said, I didn't think you were ready, Rick. And it's interesting because he just was like, I didn't think you were ready. And whatever that was in his mind must have been right at the time. But obviously that school is now ours 20 years later. That one probably took me the longest to win because I think my heart was hurt. But I think what I learned was just never give up, just keep going. I literally would still show up at that school, bringing donuts, calendars, and smiles every single year, multiple times. I passed right by it, serving all the other schools I take care of out there. So yeah, that was a big disappointment, but that happened probably 50 more times.
Well, it's a great story of perseverance and persistence and resilience. All right. We're gonna have some fun with this one. I'm fortunate enough to know your wife, Kat, as well. And let's just say that she was your high school sweetheart who obviously knows you very, very well. Let's pretend she's sitting right next to you here at this podcast. And I had asked her, what is the one thing that Rick could improve on the most on it for his professional growth? Maybe you might want to throw in personal, I don't know. But what could Rick do better? What would she answer?
Ooh, there's a long list, but I think probably the top 3 would be more organization. That you can't be organized enough. Utilize technology more, because I'm still old school Gen Xer and I have to really get it before I do it. I need to be a little bit more trusting of my team. And then the third thing is just be more humble. I tend to be, and this is something my daughter tells me as well, Dad, you just come off a little bit arrogant sometimes. Even as recent as this last graduation season, I put my foot in my mouth at a graduation because I just am not aware. So my awareness about my own level of confidence, yeah, that's about it.
You alluded earlier to the idea of entrepreneurs having a group of people to talk with, and your comments were about talking with other Jostens reps that you talk with once a month or whatnot. And so having that peer group, from that answer that you just gave, what would you give advice to your peer group about?
So I would say, because I have a couple people I've hired in the last few years, and they're asking me the similar questions, what can they do to provide more value? And I think no one does anything without another person. I'm a big believer that you can't get anything done without the help of others. So I think that you got to figure out what you're good at and start working on improving that thing you're good at to make it even better. So good that people are willing to pay or notice. And then I would go out to those people that you want to have connection with and offer that to them at no charge or at a very huge discount. People are out there and they have needs, but they don't want to be sold. People love to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So building that relationship and providing 10 times more value than what you're asking is sort of the standard rule in my mind. And so I'm just trying to help the young people I've just hired and anybody I talk to who's newer in the business or entrepreneurs that want to get involved. It's just, you've got to find a way to provide value to others and then be patient before you ask anything in return. So serve, find out what people need, figure out how to bring it to them, and just create that value constantly.
See, I think you're full of humility and vulnerability. I don't see that part of it. Anyway, tell them that you're doing a great job and to watch the podcast. They'll see that. So I can't believe how fascinating. I have one final question, then I'll turn it over to Monica to ask a couple more. Listen, you're passionate about your family. I know that. You're passionate about your business. I know that. Outside of family and business, what brings you the most joy?
Oh boy, that's a tough one because family brings me all of my joy. But I think There's something about being on the road. I just love our country. I love how beautiful our country is. So I like finding all those secret spots on roads that you can literally drive for 20 miles and not see one person.
On your Harley, probably. We finally got to the Harley, I think.
Yes, yes. So I enjoy the Harley. That's actually more of a recent thing. I used to be a BMW car guy. And so for many, many years since the very beginning, I've always been an auto guy. I used to turn wrenches in high school and buy cheap cars, fix them up, sell them. That was one of my entrepreneurial things as well. So it doesn't matter if I'm on a Harley or if in my BMW. I just get such fulfillment driving around our country and just exploring the most epic, scenic roads that we have to offer. And I got to tell you, the Northwest, we got a lot to explore. So if you ever want to come out to the Northwest, you got a Harley, hook me, come see me. I'll take you on some beautiful rides.
That sounds great. I know I have been all over the roads here in Washington, and I agree with you. Our state is beautiful, and we've got so much to see still. But like Dan, I cannot get over this clown thing. So I'm bringing it back because, you know, my HR mind is just going like crazy. And I know entrepreneurs have to have transferable skills. So tell me the top 4 transferable skills between being a clown and going into business.
Okay, so you have to have courage because you're putting yourself out there to be laughed at. So before I got my license to drive, I literally would ride my bike for up to 10 miles with my clown outfit on through the streets of San Diego, getting honked at. People threw fruit at me. So you got to have courage. And sometimes the courage comes from not experience, but just a sheer willpower. I think you got to be willing to make other people's day. I think making other people's day, however you feel like your gift is, you got to make that part of your daily regimen. So think when you wake up in the morning, who am I going to make smile today? What did I hear last week that somebody needs something? Let me go get that for them and bring it to them. The other thing I think is you got to hustle. You know, like, I mean, you're a list of 50 clowns and you got to have some experience. So you got to be willing to hustle and really just bring that value to those consumers. And then communication skills. I think that's vital. If you know what you want, but you don't know how to communicate it to the world, so practice communication skills, read about it, expand your mind, listen to people who do have great communication skills, and just practice the ability to tell your story and what is your vision for your life right here? What is your mission? What is your goal? And so, you know, my goal is to be a day changer, a day maker, to give people love and encouragement. So, you know, if I do that in the work environment or at the Starbucks, I'm going to be doing it.
All right. Rick, thanks so much for being a guest here on our Shrimp Tank. For listeners that want to get in touch with you and learn more about your company, how would they get your information?
Well, I love reaching out and hearing from people. So if you want to follow us on our social media, we're the Jostens South Sound. We have Instagram. I think we're on TikTok and Facebook. If you want to reach out personally and just say, hey, Rick, I heard your podcast, I'd love to talk to you more about that. It's rick.morton@jostens.com. So I'm old school, just email me and I'd be happy to connect with you and share whatever knowledge I have. I love helping others, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're experienced, or whether if you're a school that needs an idea and you want to hear more about what I'm finding out. And I literally have buckets and buckets of ideas that help schools in every area of their environment. Reach out. That's my passion. That's what I love to do. So
sounds great. Make sure you check out all the replays of shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle and wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be iHeart, Apple, Google, Spotify, SoundCloud, all of those. Please follow us on our show's social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Well, Rick, this has been just a lot of fun. I knew you a little bit. Now I know you a whole lot more, and I'm happy to learn everything that you do. And I love your energy and what you bring to your job, so to your career and your business. So thank you for being on. And I hope we've become now your favorite podcast, and you'll catch all of our podcasts. You know how to get them now while you're driving around. Monica, as always, thank you. I'll look forward to seeing you in August. And if my memory serves me correct, your next guest is a guy that you know pretty well. I can't wait to go to plead the fifth with Clay Blackwood in about a month. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Crazy, Dan. I can't believe you've got both of us on one show.
That's gonna be a hoot. That's gonna be a must listen to. But so is every week. As Monica said, we're coming up to every Wednesday at noon live streaming. Like us on our Facebook page. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Our next show will be Wednesday, July 26th, with a guest to be determined soon. By what I can tell you is Michelle Baumberger is going to be my co-host. In the meantime, be safe, be well, be prosperous. Jump on a Harley in a clown suit. I don't know. Maybe that's a little too much to ask, Rick. I don't know. But go have some fun, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.